inside the door of love and mercy. You wonder if there's a place there for you. You know there's peace inside, but still you're searching for someone who understands the pain you've been through. Well, the Spirit waits with open arms. It's calling out your name. Come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. Come on in. You'll find a place of rest in the arms of Spirit. God's waited so long for your homecoming day. It knows the peace you need and the hurt you're feeling. It wants to hold you and to wipe your tears away. Well, the door's unlocked, the lights are on. What are you waiting for? Come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. Come on in. There is room enough in this home of love for someone just like you. Come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. Come on in, welcome home. You are loved and you belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come in, welcome in. Well, come on, welcome in. Well, come on, come in, 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 welcome
The theme for the last month and this month is harvesting God's abundance, and for me that means to live a thriving life. And that means, lots of ways to look at this. We could look at it scientifically, and scientifically, since Ernest Holmes said that we are the correlation of the discoveries of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of religion. Hopefully I can touch on all three every circus. Service. Hello. Oh, man. You say the dumbest things when you're getting recorded. I was actually really, really, really good first service, so. So let's touch on a little bit of religion. What I have discovered in most religions is that a religion, which actually could be like yoga, it means to yoke, to bind together the soul and spirit, to bring people together closer to their source of sufficiency. And in most religions, they are written for people to have a good life now. Some people weren't having a good life, so they interpret it like it's a good life in the future. But it's a good life now, to thrive now. And I call those types of scriptures, whether they're from our Bible or from other holy books, the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran, they're really talking about how Spirit can support us, and I call those promises. So in a way to thrive is to accept the promise. I am so grateful we have a roof. And can I just say, how many of you were in the old sanctuary? And remember when the rain would come? and we get out the buckets. So I am so grateful. I'm counting my gratitudes in this moment. Praise God. Hallelujah. There we go. So when we start to see that there's a promise that something larger than ourselves, and I'm just going to call it God because I can pronounce it and spell it, is the place that we can turn to for the support that we need in the world. And as a short form is God is our source. And we also looked in these last few weeks, especially last week, as going beyond God as our source, but God is the source as us. And so we start to move into the idea that it's not about receiving, or I shouldn't say it's only about receiving, it's also about what can we source within ourselves and be for giving. We're for giving. We're forgiving, and we're giving. To move into that consciousness is quite amazing. So if you listen to the last 3 talks or 4 talks I've done, out of each one of those, you could probably get a thing that you could do, any one of them. But I wanted to wrap it together with 3 more ideas today. And they are about how to bring what we've talked about into fruition for yourself and for your community. I will not share with you anything that you don't know. You just check inside and see if you know it. And if you don't know it, and you think I'm making this up, then it's great. You don't come back. Well, because you need to find a place where you are in agreement. Now, I may stretch you, but there should be something inside of you that says, yeah, that's true. Because I don't believe that we don't know what's true. I actually am just talking to that part of you that already knows this. We're just here to practice it. Sort of like when I used to go to the gym. Because I knew I was going to the gym, I practiced before I got to the gym. How many of you have done that? And how many of you watching people in the gym, you brought your A game to the gym, right? So we're here, this is a spiritual spa. We know how to do things, but we practice together because we're better when we practice together. Isn't that true? I mean, this is, you've read the spiritual books. You have the spiritual education, most likely. And we know what I'm going to say. But there's 3 things that I'm going to say. And you just check inside to see if it's true. And I realize that I'm not a disseminator of new information. I am a cheerleader for us using it. There's a big difference. Ernest Holmes said, I don't have any new revelations. I'm just telling you what I have gathered all over, and they seem to be saying it over and over again, so I'll just say it in my voice. So I'm going to say what I know to be true in my voice. The first thing is, if we want a thriving life, and how many of you would like to have a thriving life? Great. You've got to be committed to it. You've got to be committed to your thriving life. In the land of loosey-goosey, in the land of drive-by fast food, or I should say drive-up fast food, we want it quick, we want it easy, and if it's not, we give up. How many of you have started some new program? Think back to last January. How many of you started something, but it wasn't easy? And then it just was not quite, you wanted to, you really had good intentions, but the follow-through wasn't so good. I actually read something the first service, and I'm looking for it, and I'm not finding it, probably because I was in my dyslexic self, and the reading of it didn't turn out so well, so I'm just going to paraphrase Goethe, or Gertie, or who was that guy's name? What? Goethe. Right. That's him. Anyway, he said, unless one is committed, nothing's going to happen. I'm paraphrasing, can't read it right now. But basically, it's true. He said, all things shift and move once you've made that commitment. But unless you make that commitment, nothing happens. Yeah, I know that too. See, this is okay. Everybody that knows that. How many of you know that? Okay, great. I was thinking about Alessandra, who did a power talk a couple of months ago, and she talked about being here in this area, in this place, the 1st of January, where she heard about a trip to Portugal. She decided to go to Portugal, and I talked about it. I said she went from 0 to Portugal in 4 months, because we left at the end of April, and she was on that trip. And yet in January probably 7th, she had no money. She just finished graduate school. She had all sorts of debts, and she had no extra available cash, but she made the commitment. And because she made the commitment, and she did a few things, like she tried to sell a ring. Remember, she tried to sell a ring, and it was worthless, so she went back to the jeweler, and he gave her a refund for over $900. That was getting things started. So she made the commitment, and she kept moving forward. She made the commitment and kept making forward. We don't move forward. We don't step if we're not committed. We don't do the things that it would take if we're not making a commitment. If you want something, you have to commit to it. I had a fabulous conversation with someone that's going to Peru with me. Because during first service, I said, I am committed to being able to hike around Peru when I get there. And it's not just up and down hills, it's all up and down hills. And then you get a hill. So I had to be committed to walking and making sure that I'm doing enough walking and making sure that I'm getting some stairs in, because I want to be free when I get there. I can't think about it and say, yeah, that's a great idea, and then 2 days before start doing stairs. I mean, we know, how many of you know that? So if you're really committed to thriving, you will start to thrive. This is interesting, though. This is something I read recently. There's a difference between interest and commitment. See, I'm interested in being healthy. How many of you are interested in something? How many of you are interested in thriving? We're all interested, but boy, there's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in doing something, you do it only when it is convenient. When you're committed to something, you accept no excuses and only results. Because you keep moving forward. If that doesn't work, you try something else. If that doesn't work, you try something else. Why? Because you're committed. I'm grateful that Edison was committed to finding out how to have a light bulb, because he had a whole bunch of failures and kept trying. Commitment really does work. But commitment means, to make that commitment, you may have to be the one shifting. I get these crazy things on Facebook. How do they know that I'm a minister, besides it says senior minister on my Facebook profile? So I got one that was a T-shirt. It was so funny. It said, I have the title senior minister because kick-ass healer isn't really a title. I think it actually said, wasn't badass. Ooh, that's even, whoa. Oh, well. So I get that kind of stuff, and then I also got another one that was a joke, but it was so true. So there's this minister, and he's on a pulpit. I don't have a pulpit that would be right at the edge, and he's looking out all these people like I'd be looking at you. And he says, who believes and wants change? And everybody raises their hand, and he says, so who wants to change? Everybody has their head down. See, if we're going to be committed, we may have to change, because we're going to try something, it doesn't work. We're going to try something, it doesn't work, and we're going to keep trying it until something works, and it may mean that we're the one that has to shift a bit. We have to be committed. For instance, I really want to be a better writer. I'm just too old to do it the way that I did it in my teens, which is run like heck, stop like heck, fall off, don't break anything, get back on again. That's just not appropriate for me right now. It worked then. So I have to be committed to a practice. I have to be committed to trying things out, because no one can really tell you how to be so in tune with the horse that it understands the way you breathe. You have to do it and work it and work it and work it until the horse goes, oh, she went, stop. And then, go. Takes practice. I want that. I got to be committed to it. Otherwise, I'm just interested in how other people do it. Isn't that interesting? And watch another YouTube video. Wow, look what they can do. In my early 20s, I was introduced to this particular philosophy, and I became incredibly interested in prosperity. But man, it took commitment to it. Because my background, I've always said that I came from lower middle class, and I just owned it this morning. We were darn poor. I mean, you know how many of you have had childhoods where it didn't seem that bad at the time, and then I look back, it's like, oh no, we were poor. In junior high, we could not afford new shoes, so I wore the shoes I did the year before, and luckily I stopped growing it in the 6th grade, so that wasn't a problem. The problem was my shoes had holes, and we lived in Oregon, and it rained. So I would shuffle like this so nobody would see that I had holes in my shoes. And I'd change socks when I got to school, because when I walked there, most likely I got my feet so wet that I couldn't stand it. So I changed socks. That was probably pretty poor. But it wasn't bad. And then for some reason I got introduced to this philosophy, and I made a commitment to do what I could to expand my mental equivalent. And I had nothing to lose. I love being poor. I loved it because there was nothing to lose by trying something. It got to the point after practice of this and being committed to doing things like prayer work and affirmations and reading books and going to a practitioner and doing what I was told and seeing things and feeling things and imagining myself. And after all of that, I don't have an issue. It's not even something I pray for anymore. Because it's now in my cells and my bones. If I want it, it shows up for myself. Because I was committed to it. There's something new that I want to be committed to, and it is, I want to be consistent, and what I want in this church is consistent healing. You know, we dabble with it. I want a church that when somebody comes here and they're suffering physically, they know that there's something that, I'm going to, please, for those of you that have Bible phobia, close your ears right now. Go like this, blah, 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 blah. That when people are having issues, this place is so filled with the Holy Ghost that nothing is incurable. But it won't happen with loosey-goosey prayer. It's not going to happen like, oh, I prayed once. It will take for me considerable effort to know deep down in my bones, just like I know God is the source of my prosperity, I have to know with every cell that there is in my presence no sin, sickness, or death. And I have to know that even in the face of evidence so that what is spiritually true becomes physically true. That's commitment. The next thing is contribution. Going back to last week, I talked about the most mystical definition of forgiveness is that we learn that we are here for giving, that we are the place that God gives. We are forgiving. What I know, and you know this too, it's the people who get involved with life that thrive. The people who are involved and make a contribution, they are the happiest. How many of you know people at work, and they're not here, and it's the back of your head, so even if they're seeing the video, hello, by the way, they won't know who it is. How many of you know people in your workplace that complain all the time, and yet they're really on the sidelines not really contributing? Have you know the ones that leap in and are doing something, they're interested. No matter what the conditions are, they're involved. They're getting something out of it. What they're getting out comes back to them. Contribution makes a huge difference. And we have, as a nation, become a spectator nation. Even if we're not seeing a sports thing, there's so many people that are getting their juice from watching TV or video games, and that's nothing wrong with that. But if that's the way that we're living, there's no contribution, and therefore we can never thrive. It's the people that get on some sort of playing field doing something that thrive because it is what comes back to them. Their involvement makes them happy. How many of you really know that? Raise your hand. See, I told you there was nothing new here. We need to contribute to the things that we value, whether it's our work, our families, our society, or our community. We have neighbors. Tim and I, they say they're not Catholic and they say they're not Mormon. I don't know. They just really believe in a lot of children. And so far they have 13. And I say so far because every time I think she's done, there's more. I don't know, so I don't know. Anyway, so there's nothing about that, but we started out with Austin. Austin came at 16 and said, I'm here to work, and so we hired Austin. And then he as he was getting ready to go on to real jobs, he brought his brother Garret. And as his brother was going on to real jobs as soon as they could drive, then they brought Owen, and Owen is bringing Peyton, and Peyton will bring others. And what we see is that we have plows, that's the name of the family, forever. Ever. We will never run out of someone to mow our lawn. But here's the deal. Those kids are so happy. But they don't leave the house until they've all done something they're supposed to do. That family runs because they're all involved. They all have their jobs. You know, Owen was this big, and I said, so what's your job? I do breakfast on Tuesdays. And because it's their family, boy, those kids are happy. They're sane. They don't have TV. They don't have videos. They don't go to movies. Boy, they're happy. But they play. They got trampolines and dirt bikes, and they're involved in their family and in their church. The last thing that I want to leave you with is consistency. We can't expect big shifts right away, but if we continue to be consistent with whatever we are doing, we will see a difference. I'm seeing a difference in the way that Apache responds to me. That's one of my horses. I'm seeing that difference. Inward journey was mentioned by Susan. I see a shift in inward journey because for 9 months, people are consistently asked to go inside and do that inward journey, to look inside, to look inside, to look inside. It's not so much about what they're studying or what they're reading, because we could study and read probably anything, but I haven't told them that yet. But by continually looking and looking and looking, eventually the only thing they can find is the magnificence of God within themselves. And they found it. But it's consistent. Those students show up when they're feeling good and when they're not feeling good, when they've got something to celebrate and when everything is falling apart. There's some consistency. So what I would like you to do is to ask yourself, are you willing to be consistent with seeing God as your partner in thriving? Are you willing to be consistent in being grateful? Are you willing to be consistent in being aware of what you want to have and then asking Spirit to support you with that? Are you willing to be consistent with talking about what's going on well instead of what's going on wrong? How many of you know you can do that? And I talked about that last week. The science says your day-to-day experience will be consistent with what you are counting. And are you being consistent? Will you promise to be consistent with your forgiveness work and that to be forgiving? If you do that, you will start to thrive. Those things will shift you. Now I want to shift things a bit, but before I do that, does anyone have any questions about commitment, contribution, or consistency? Anyone think that one of those is bogus? I know, it's like, who knows that commitment's a good thing? How many of you know that contribution's a good thing? How many of you know consistency's a good thing? All right, then here we go. And then I want to shift things a little bit. I've said this at a few dinners, and actually it exploded a bit last night while I was getting ready to do this talk. My mother, even though I tried very hard to not be my mother, I tried very hard to go out on my own. I tried very hard to not be dependent upon a man or a situation. I tried to be independent. I tried to travel and to do all those things that I thought my mother maybe wanted to do, but she didn't. And so I tried so hard to not be my mother, I became unconscious of the ways that I was still my mother's daughter. And I had a huge revelation yesterday while I was doing this talk. I've talked to a few people that one of the things my mother said often was to not talk about good stuff because that sounds like bragging and nobody likes a bragger. She said another thing too, and the other thing she said very adamantly with so much that word. That I actually thought it's like I had done something criminally wrong. But the thing I did was I asked. We were at some friend's house, and I asked for something. And my mother took me aside, grabbed me by the arm, looked at me, and said, "Don't ask." And what I get is that my mother had probably been treated that way, and somehow she had accepted the idea that ladies don't talk about themselves and they don't ask. And so I became like my mother and my grandmother, and probably my grandmother's grandmother, and we became manipulative, trying to get things in some way other than seeming dependent on anything. And what occurred to me last night is that I have to love my mother because she was sharing these things with me because they had hurt her and she didn't want me to be hurt. So she was actually giving me her highest wisdom. It just wasn't very high, but it was high for her. Now, if in the Bible it says that the sins of the fathers are visited upon the children for 7 generations, so too, since there's no time in God, and because we live in a reciprocal universe that what goes around comes around, if I'm healed, it goes back. So I'm doing better. I am healing some things. The first thing that I want to heal is, my goodness, we do a lot around here. So much more than Sunday. And so many people want to evaluate the health of this spiritual community based on Sunday. And yet I know that a lot of people only show up once a month, and the rest of the time they either watch it on YouTube or they watch it, hello, as these wonderful people are. Hello, donate now. Anyway, this is just some of the things that we've done. I want to talk about it because we do really good stuff. Did you know that we have the only young adults group in the Northwest? Do you know that we have the only New Thought coming of age group in the United States, or probably the world? Did you know that for the last 6 years, we've supported anywhere between 1 and 4 churches get a startup, because we've financially supported churches that need a startup their first year, because they have gone to places where there's no one to depend upon. A minister has been called to some place like Louisiana or the Midwest. I was like, to me, that's like ooh, wild. And they said, I'm going to do something here, and they have no resources because United, God bless them, doesn't have anything like that, so we have supported them. So that means so far we've supported 12 New Thought CSL churches in the United States. They're here and viable because we gave to them. Another thing that we are the major contributor for is a program that we do for ministers. So for the last 18 years, we've put on something called the Ministers Ongoing Education Conference. And what that is that about 2 years out of ministerial school, ministers realize what they didn't get in ministerial school. And so we take them for a week and build them back up so they can go back into their communities. Because there isn't anything like that. There's nothing. So for the last 18 years, we have supported anywhere between 25 and 30 ministers. Now, do the math. That's a lot of ministers that we're taking care of. Plus new groups starting everywhere. And if you were here a week ago, you heard a teen say, because of CSL and the teen group, I now know I'm awesome. And I walk the halls of high school, and I know I'm awesome. And before, I thought I was good because of the sports I played, and I don't have to play sports now because I know I'm awesome. There's something going on really fabulous over there, and you may never see it, but our children are being told that they're good just because they exist, and not because of anything else. So I'm now going to shift a bit, and I am going to ask, because I need your help, and I need some things from you. The first thing is I'd like to have your commitment. I'd like you to up-level your interest in this place and ask yourself if you're willing to be committed to it. I read this thing about commitment. It says, love is unconditional commitment to an imperfect person. Love isn't a feeling, it's a decision and a promise. See, God promises to take care of us, even though we're pretty imperfect. And perhaps I am finally able to say that in November, which is November, this month, I will have been married for 15 years, whereas I never got anywhere near that, and it's because I finally made a commitment and I stopped just being interested in being married. Commitment means you do what you said you'd do, even when you don't feel it. And I say that to married couples all the time because I know from experience there are times I don't want to keep my vows. There are times I do not want to speak the truth to them in love. I just want to speak the truth. And there are times that I want my best interest and not our best interest. And commitment is doing it because it's the right thing to do. And so for this community, there are times that you will see our imperfection because guess what? We have it. We are a living organism and we're not perfect. But commitment is going beyond interest, even in the face of that imperfection. Because that's what you would want the universe to do for you. I'm also asking for you to make a contribution that will help us continue to do what we're doing and go beyond all of that. To take your intention card that you got when you came in and actually consider filling it out. To make a commitment to the well-being of this spiritual community based not on your fears and your withholding, but based on the presence of God that's in you right now and what would it say for you to do. And then be consistent. See, whether you're here or not, and what I've noticed is people show up about every 4 weeks, but consistently we're there for the kids. Consistently we bring the best music. We're consistent, and I haven't asked you to be that way. I've just been happy that you are interested. I am my mother's daughter. I didn't want to offend. No, I'm not my mother's daughter. I'm an expression of God, and so are you. And I can go through my fears, and so can you. So I'm asking you to fill this out now. Now. You're still looking at me. Now. Now. And even if you only show up twice a year, what can you commit to make sure that when you show up, we're still here? And that the programs still go on. And we still spread this message way beyond this room on Sunday. So for those of you that are watching and sending me emails about how much you love this place and how much you love the message and how much you would miss CSL, get on our website and fill one of these things out.
I didn't get one. I'm doing it.
And I'd also like you to just take a stand. Take a stand for the consistency of what we give. Take a stand for your support. We're going to have some people come up here, and there's a place for you to bring your pledge card. And to just, this is the closest thing the Center for Spiritual Living ever gets to an altar call. You're not going to be saved by Jesus, but you are going to save us from having to reduce programs. So stand up and bring in your pledge card when you get a chance. Like now.
With these hands and with these hearts, with this vision, let us start. With these tools and on this ground, we pray your will for us abounds. Let us grow a church of love and understanding. Let us grow a church of peace. Let us build a foundation strong enough to embrace all in kind. Let us grow a church of heart and mind. In this moment and in this space, in your presence and with your grace, we ask for nothing but for your will to flow through us and be fulfilled, while the walls of fear that may have held us yesterday dissolve to dust upon the ground and simply fade away. And the power and strength inherently that flows within moves us forward now as we begin to grow a church of love and understanding as we grow a church of peace, as we build a foundation large enough to embrace all in kind. Let us grow church of heart and mind. Let us grow our church of heart and
that we allow ourselves to deeply appreciate the presence of God that is all around us, the presence of truth that fills us, the presence of wisdom that guides us. And so I give thanks that we are here this day to love and be loved, to be for love. For each person standing here is here to give love, to give love, to give love. And you are here to receive that and give it again. That the circulation of love can be ever expanding. We are here to testify to that love, to that commitment, to the ability to see and to be consistent no matter how we may feel. I am so grateful that that is the power of love. The power of love fills us and allows us to commit to things we didn't think we could commit to. The power of love fills us and allows us to contribute what we didn't know we had. And the power of love fills us so that we can be consistent in everything we've said we would do. And our word becomes the law unto the law. And it's filled with love as we are too. And I am so grateful for that. And so it is.